Okay, so in this class, we're going to learn about DOM manipulations in JavaScript. Okay, so there are different elements that you can use, methods you can use for DOM manipulations. We can use getElementById. So I'll just put them up as a comment. We have getElementById. We also have querySelector. So I have to do this in my JavaScript. At the end of the day, I'll be using my JavaScript here. So I have an external JS. So getElementById. querySelector. querySelector all. getElementsByClassName. And then finally, we also see getElementByTagging. Okay, so we'll be looking at all these and see how can we actually use it to manipulate them. So what do I mean by DOM manipulation? Normally in HTML, I can actually just say H1 and I write something in H1 and I say this is, I have to put up this in one side, so I simply say control dash and I have this control dash. So I can simply say H1, this is a text, and when I save it, I'll have it showing me that this is a text. So it will also be nice that I have to also open my console, so I'll be able to see what is happening at my console at each point. So to open my console, I will say Ctrl+Shift+J. So that will be able to open up my console here and I'll be seeing what exactly I'm doing here. So just to make my zoom to enough so you can actually see. So this is my console. See what is happening. All right, so next thing is I need to link my JavaScript to my HTML. So there are so many ways I can do JavaScript, just like CSS. I can also write my JavaScript within a script tag. One good thing with a script tag is it can come anywhere within my HTML documents. Okay, so I can put it here, I can put it at the head, I can put it anywhere within the body, I can put it after the body, and also with this I can just write my JavaScript and say hello class. So something like this, and when I save it, I will see it popping out here, hello class. Okay, so or I can just call it console.log. console.log. Okay, so when I save that, I will see it on the console of my browser. Okay, or I can also log out a console.log. I can also log it out within the console of my Visual Studio Code. Ctrl+Shift+Backtick to open my terminal in Visual Studio Code. So, but if I want to run JavaScript there, I will need to have installed Node package module before I can run that. Okay, so if you have Node package module installed in your system, you can simply say node space, that's a / first. We just call it first.js. So if I run that, I should be able to, okay, so I'm not having that anyway because I can't be running a script tag here, so I don't have it there. So let me just cut out this line, Control X, and I put it here. Okay, anywhere here is fine, Control V, and I save. So if I run this again, I will see hello class showing me within the console of my browser. Well, I won't be doing this, okay? We'll be looking at how do we log out on the page, on the document itself. So I'm going to close out this, all right? So I'll be writing on the external JavaScript here. Okay, so I have to link this external JavaScript here, and I will still do that using the script elements. So say script source, I will choose the one for source, and I'll say dot slash first okay, dot slash test.js. So when I save that, I will simply have it login. So just to be sure that hello class is fun. So I'll have it there, hello class, this is fun. So now I've linked it to my HTML, and whatever I'll be doing, I'll be working there, I'll be able to log it out. Okay, so let me remove this text. I won't be working with it. So what I need to do is, in DOM manipulation, we target our HTML. We target an element, and we'll be able to log out that element based on how we target it in our JavaScript. Okay, so let's say I have this element. Let me just bring back what I had before, H1, and maybe I have a group of text here. I can say UL greater than li times 5. So maybe I have this text here, and this text probably it has an ID of Univel. I call it Univel. So that kind of thing. So you can actually see I don't have anything here, but how will I be able to put in text here and be able to manipulate that? So for this, the first thing I can do is, let's say, get element by ID. Okay, I'm going to remove this. Right. That's fine. Get element by ID. Before we change a text by get element by ID, I need to have given it an ID here. Talking about ID, we need to know that IDs are unique identifiers. I can only use ID to target something once. But never mind what CSS will do. CSS will help you to target an ID more than once, okay? So, but that is not what it is intended to do. Let's say I have this thing called ID again, and this ID is also the same text, Univer. But this is wrong, right? So if I use style, if I go and write style and I say hash Univer, maybe I give it background color, I say background color, probably aqua, I will do that. I will see that it will apply background color to both of them. Okay. But why is this wrong? Anytime I'm using an ID is supposed to be unique. I'm not meant to use it more than once. CSS will allow me to do this, but if it were JavaScript, it's never going to allow me to do this kind of thing here. Okay. So in JavaScript, how do I target an element with an ID of Univer, for example, here? Okay. So I'm going to save it to the variable. We all know that we can actually save our variable using a const or a let keywords. I can say const. I can call it item 1. Item 1 to be equal to document, because I'm actually working with a document dot get element by ID. Get element by ID, and the name of the ID in parentheses, and it has to be quotation mark. So the name of the ID is Univer. Get element by ID Univer. And if I now try to, I can put something inside there. I can say item 1 dot text contents to be equal to what do I like? I think I would call it chicken. So I will see chicken appearing here as a text within my document. Let me just use CSS to increase the size of my document. Okay, so let me say UL and give it a font size so it will be much more visible of 3 rem. So it is more visible now. You can see it's 3 rem. Okay. All right. So 2 rem is fine, so it doesn't get crazy. Okay. So you can see that that only assigns 1, even though I have 2 elements with an ID of Univel. So, but it's only going to assign it to the first one. If you ignore the second one, so it doesn't even take an array. It's not going to, there's no way I can say, if I try to use an array and say, oh, what I'm actually talking of is Univel 0, maybe put in 0 here. I try that, I will actually see an error on the console telling me cannot set property of undefined in test content because it doesn't understand what I did here. Okay, so this is null and void as far as getElementById is concerned. So it did not work. Okay, so this makes it so easy for me to set an element there. Okay, next one we have is querySelector. Okay, I will now give it a constant, can say constant item2 to be equal to documents, definitely is a document dot querySelector, and I want to select li. So I have to put it in quotation mark, otherwise if I try not to put this in quotation mark, okay, I'm going to have an error telling me that li is not defined. It's going to see this li here as if it's a variable that I defined, okay, somewhere. So assuming I have it and then, oh, this, you're actually talking about li. Okay, so this is maybe I have something like const li equal to p. So it can actually understand what I'm saying now. So it will be able to understand it, but I did not have something like that. Okay, so there's no need for me to have that. So if this is what I mean, I have to put it in quotation mark. Okay, so and again I have to put a content inside it, item2 dot text content, that how I can put a content inside it, item2 dot text content equal to pork. You like pork, you like that. So you see that immediately I do that, it changed what I have in the first one to the second one. So what really happened here is that cascading order applies. I have this, and so why didn't it select the li, this second one, since I've selected this other one? So why didn't it select the second one? It doesn't select the second one because it only choose the first one to select. Okay, so but one good thing with querySelector is that querySelector allows me to write selectors just like the way I write my selectors in CSS. You know, let's say I want to select the second li in CSS. I could have done something like li plus li. So that is, I'm looking at li that is a sibling of li. So that's going to select the second li. So I'll put a background color and I give it ample. So that is definitely going to select this li here. Okay, and give it a background color. So if I have tilt, it's going to also select that for me. So it doesn't necessarily know the li that I'm talking of. It's going to put that as up. So now I can also write, querySelector allows me to write just the same way that I'm writing selectors in CSS. So I can say plus li. So when I do this, it's going to go to the second one and apply that up to it. So what if I say plus li plus li? So it's going to go to the third one and apply it, plus li plus li. It will go to the fourth one to apply it. Okay, But instead of doing all this, why not write it the way I'm gonna write? I can say dot ends of type, can say ends of type, and ends of type for it is second. So this will go to the second one, and if I say ends of type is third, it will go to the third one, and if I say last of type, it will go to the last one. So that is querySelector. So anything just the same way I write my selectors, it's the same way it's going to apply it there. So let's say this thing is university, and I want to apply this university. Okay, so I can actually just write my selector as this is an ID, right? So it's not like if I want reference ID, I can only use getElementById. No, I can also decide to use querySelector to reference something that is an ID. So you can see, so if I say PubMed, just verify that that is there, you can see it is written there, PubMed. Okay, so whenever you're using querySelector or and you want to reference an ID, I need to put the hash symbol. But I don't need it when I'm using getElementById. It's already an ID. I don't necessarily need to use it. Okay. So another good one we can go for is querySelector all. Okay. querySelector all selects all, but it only gives me, I can call it item 3. It only targets just the first one, document dot querySelector all. Now I can say select for me all the li. Okay, so querySelector all is going to select all the li for me. All right, but how do I use it? Anytime I want to use querySelector all, I need to pass an array index to it. So I will now say item 3. I cannot say item 3 dot text contents. Okay, equal to if. Okay, so if I do that, nothing like that actually exists. Okay, it doesn't understand what I mean, and you can see this is one of the errors that doesn't even throw in an error in the console. I need to specify what array index is it. Let's say I want it to be on the 5th one. Okay, mind you that array start counting from 0. So that means when I'm saying the 5th one, since it start counting from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to say 4. So when I do that, I will see beef appearing there. Okay, so I need to pass it array index. So this is quite nice because I can actually use this code, Control Shift arrow down, and I can change this to 3. Can change this to 3, and probably this is fish. So declaring just this thing once, I can just be passing an array inside it, and I will be able to insert those a particular text in it. So querySelector all will allow me to use array index to choose whatever text that I want to fit in there. Okay. We move, and also know that these things are very, very case sensitive. If I come here and make mistake, instead of saying capital S and I have lower letter S, there's an error that will pop out in my console. Always watch out for your console. Your console will always show you an error. It may not, error will never display here to tell you, oh, there's actually an error or something. So your console will, in most cases, as far as that is, syntax error, you are going to always have it displayed on your console. Type error querySelector is not a function. So you just have to look at the spelling and say, hey, how do I select things better? And be mindful of what a Visual Studio Code is telling you. Sometimes it will give you a blue underline to tell you that it doesn't understand what you're saying, but sometimes the blue underline can also mean it doesn't understand the spelling you are giving, because here simply saying unknown words, doesn't understand it because university doesn't exist. So getElementsByClassName is the next one. Okay, this works like almost getElementById, but here what is it? Get elements. You will always need to put that on. Okay. So I will now use const item 4 to be equal to document.getElementsByClassName. Know that now one thing I always advise is if this thing start popping up for you, select it. Don't try to type everything because you make mistake. getElementsByClassName. So maybe the class name I'm looking at is food. Okay. So and then I can now come and say item 4 dot text contents to be equal to salad. Sound like I'm hungry today. So, but this is not really applying because I need to ask which element has this class of food here. Okay, probably I want the second one since I'm doing array in this. If I say the second one, I mean 1. Okay, now there is an error. It's telling me an error here and cannot pass set property of undefined inside test content. Why is it calling it undefined? I don't actually have anything with a class of food in my text, in my HTML. So I go back there and probably I can provide something and give it a class of food. Let me go to the second one. It doesn't have anything. I can say class of food. So even if I do this, this will still not work because I'm actually targeting the second one and not the first one. So this will definitely work if I pass 0 here to work. But I'm saying the second one there, right? So let's say this one also has a class of food. Okay, so okay, so if it has a class of food and I'm saying the second one, so I have to pass in 1 here. So I now have salad showing me there because that second li is the one that has is the second one that has a class of food. So you see how this really works. Now, one thing you need to understand is that if I'm targeting class, I don't need to put dots here as far as I'm saying getElementByClassName. But if I'm using querySelector or querySelector, I need to put dots there. Let's say what I'm looking for is I can say dots food. So no, not here. Sorry, that's here. Okay, that's the place. Dots food. Okay, querySelector dot food. So you can see that pop meat has been assigned to this second item. Okay, dot food, item 2 querySelector dot food, which we just assigned to the first one. So this definitely assigns the first li with a class of food and not the second li. Okay, if I wanted to assign the second li with a class of, I'll say plus food dot food plus dot food. So that will actually assign it to the second one. So, but if I'm using this ID called getElementByClassName, I don't actually need a class of food. I don't actually need that in order for me. So I don't need the dots in order for me to write that. Okay, finally, in this section, we can actually look at tag name. Let's look at each one. Okay, item 5. I have to put up a constant. Unless I do not put up a constant, equal to document dot getElementsByTagName, getElementByTagName, and I say h1. Okay, so I'm tagging an element with h1. So item 5 dot text content, 5 dot text content to be equal to my best meal, my best dish, stuff like that. So, but I can see that this thing is not working because I did not declare item 5 anywhere. So I need to declare this variable item 5 using a const. Okay. So, but item 5 doesn't still seem to work. It doesn't work. So this is one of the things you will definitely be faced with. You see query selector or get elements by class name, get elements by tag name. Anytime I'm using them, I need to be passing an array index to them. So I need to tell it because if I'm saying get elements, it's expecting there are more than one element. So which of the elements am I talking of? I'm saying the first one, which is 0. So when I do this, it's going to actually save in there for me to know that, hey, my best dish, you see. So whatever I do in my HTML, it's pretty much obvious that my JavaScript will be able to do what? To ignore whatever that is there. Any text that is there is going to ignore it and put up its own text. So, but what if what I wanted it to do is I have wanted it to add this text as part of the other text that I have there, okay? So let's assume that inside this place that this text is actually maybe I have chapter 1 here and all that, okay? So I now want this text to be like chapter 1, my best dish. Okay. So okay. I don't know whether this actually makes sense anyway. But what I will do is instead of saying equals sign, I can add it to it by saying plus equals my best dish. So when I do that, okay, I can actually see that chapter 1 will still be there and my best dish. So plus equals is an addition assignment operator, meaning don't remove what is there, just add this to be part of the text, okay? Don't remove what is there. I have chapter 1 there, don't remove it, okay? If I say equal to this, that means I'm assigning this to be this. Whatever that is there has gone, okay? So when I say plus assign it to be this, it means, hey, whatever that I have here, please assign it, add this one to it. Plus equals means add it to it. Okay. So the same thing also applies to every other one that I'm doing here. Assuming I have text there and everything. So if I just say plus equals this, it's going to add it to it. Okay, so that is it on this section. We'll also be looking at how do I create my own element? What if I want to create my own element? How can I create an element? Okay. Will I be able to create my elements? And what if I want to do that? How am I going to go about creating my own element? We'll be seeing that in the next class.